Hi, the date is the 25th of May, 2026, and I want to make this video because there is someone I take a lot of advice from, and when that person was asked what they struggle with, they gave a really interesting answer that I want to kind of introduce that concept. So, their answer was, any issues that come up, because I know myself, I don't see them as they're solvable, is what I mean. So because this person knows their weaknesses and their strengths, any problem that comes up is in gray area. They can make a plan on how to solve it and work towards that plan. And so this is very good on the topic of learning who you are, first of all, because you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. First of all, learning who you are, and a really good way of starting to learn who you are is defining your strengths and weaknesses. So I've got a couple of examples for me personally, which is, so first of all, my limitations. I can't listen to stimulating music. I can't watch stimulating content. I even can't watch movies too much, or play games, or even play the games on my phone. And I assumed I was just like everybody else, and I just lacked self-discipline or willpower. And then I realized I am different. I maybe have ADHD. I'm a different person with different experiences, with different brain wiring, and there are some things that limit me. Like how other people usually, or different people, can get addicted to substances, I can get addicted very easily to high dopamine level stuff, where other people I know, they don't get addicted to that stuff. And another thing is, so with the stimulating music, for example, people can listen to whatever music they want usually, but for me personally, I have issues where I have a bad habit of creating mental scenarios while I'm listening to music and dissociating from my own life. And it's interesting because a lot of other people don't have that, but another thing is I have a voice in my head that's always talking, and it's not like voices in my head, not like crazy stuff, but like I have a inner critical voice that some people have and some people don't have, and I just assumed everybody had that. So you got to know who you are by knowing how you're different than other people, and don't assume anything. Don't assume that you have this weakness that other people don't, or you do, or other people have the weaknesses that you do, or the strength that you do, because I feel like pointing out those limitations that you have can point to your strengths. And because I understand my weaknesses, I can understand how to counteract them, which makes things easier. So you counteract your weaknesses and embrace your strengths, and I feel like that's the way to go. So personally for me, since I can't listen to stimulating music, I don't use like things like Spotify and that. I use CDs that I buy in op shops, and I buy older music that's less stimulating. Then stimulating content. Instead of just, and you can't just cut out everything. You can't just cut it out, because that will leave a blank space that you will want to fill with more of that stuff. So instead of watching stimulating content, I still need to use YouTube for watching stuff. So I watch stuff with intention. If I have an issue, like I'm having maybe I want to work out my shoulders more, I will intentionally go on the internet just to search up how to work out shoulders. It's not letting the algorithm control what you see, because that's usually what gets me addicted to stimulating content. I don't rely on algorithms at all. Then for movies, where I embrace, like, I feel very, guess, empathetic for the movie characters, and I get very emotional and imagine myself in their positions. Again, we all have our own weaknesses, don't judge, but I will watch one movie and then I'll just keep watching movies until I watch movies all night. And that's one of my weaknesses. A lot of people can say, You just need willpower. You just need to turn off the TV. But I have to accept that I am different than other people. And other people might judge me for this weakness, but they don't know what it's like to be me. And that's the kind of mindset you have to go in with this. And so instead, I will just watch movies at theaters where I have to commit with money and it's scarcity, so it can be a good moment, but it's also not something is super active in my environment. Then for games where I get super stimulated and I get kind of that fake sense of accomplishment and a ton of dopamine, I make it so I'm just buying old games for my old Xbox where I'm stuck in one place if I want to play the games. I can't take my laptop everywhere. I can't play it everywhere. And they're older games, so it's less stimulating and more nostalgic. Then for the playing games on my phone, like I will download these games on my phone and play them whenever I'm bored and play them to zone out and just get a hit of dopamine and just play them for so long and just like love them. But now I'm trying to replace that with things like Duolingo, where I'm like learning a different language when I do that and learning a new skill, and it's less stimulating. But that's what I mean by why I'm giving the limitations I have and the weaknesses and the solutions, how I'm solving them. And I know that it sounds strange that these are things that like everybody has to deal with, and like you can just not do it, you know, like, but for me personally, that's just the way it is. And again, that's how you have to approach this if you want to have the most success, is you just got to know yourself and don't bring other people into the ideas, or don't compare yourself with other people. You just have to take it as it is and work from there, because at any point you're trying to compare it with other people, then it brings shame, because you're comparing, they can do it, I can't, I should be able to do this. And then even if it's not shame and you do actually use willpower to not do these things or avoid your weaknesses, it will still end up with you falling back into that cycle, because you're using a limited resource like willpower. You're using a limited resource to combat an infinite problem, because it's a issue. It's a balance, you know, your strengths, you have your strengths, and then you have your weaknesses, and these weaknesses will always be there, but these strengths will always be there. And you need to combat your weaknesses in a permanent way, instead of just using willpower, where these things can come up again, where willpower is finite. Like, what if you have a late night and you've used a ton of willpower that day, but then you got your video games sitting right next to you, or your apps on your phone, for my personal example, where I will use that when my willpower is run out. But instead, I write down concrete rules to combat these issues. And another thing is when these issues can cause problems. Because for instance, when I dissociate from my reality, it makes it harder to live in the present moment, which the other day I talked about how I was getting back into dating. I met this charismatic girl and I really wanted to approach her and talk to her, but I had been dissociating earlier that day. So instead of feeling shame for not missing the opportunity, I took it for what it is, you know, and then I decided, you know what, we're going to get to the bottom of this and actually fix it. Because you can't, if you blame yourself for that stuff, it just causes more shame. And even if I had shamed myself for that, I did feel bad, but it's like what the guy I asked for advice for, all the problems you have are confrontable when you know yourself. So where I know myself, I looked at myself and I was like, this is a part of me, and this is a part of me that will always be there, and I need to get a sustainable way to fix this part. Oh, the camera almost fell over. All right. well, I think that's kind of all I wanted to say for this video. So, and that's just a new concept that I'm trying to integrate into my life. But yeah, that's the end of the video.